Okay, so I just want to talk quickly about this chain bet concept. This was a post on RBTC yesterday. Chain bet, this is kind of a just at this point, just a concept. There's no kind of code behind it, or at least no like production code. But it's a concept for what you could essentially call like trustless atomic betting, which is kind of really cool. So in fact, John Old actually messaged me, asked me to kind of take a look at it, and I think I have some ideas for how to kind of or maybe at least improve it a little bit with the security. So I'll give you a little demo of that in a second. Um, but basically, if you've been around in Bitcoin for a while, you remember Satoshi Dice, right? And the way Satoshi Dice worked is you send your bet to them, whoever's running Satoshi Dice, and they turn around, and if you win, they turn around and send you your winnings. And there's an inherent this is like an inherently trusted system, right? You're trusting that Satoshi Dice will actually send the payment back if you win, right? They could just take your money and run away, right? Um, so the idea behind an atomic bet, it's a bet that once both parties agree to it and they commit to it, it's not possible for the loser to prevent the winner from claiming his winnings, or it's not possible for the winner to like not get his winnings. Okay, and there isn't any way that there isn't any way that the either party could kind of like mess with the other one and kind of get their funds locked up or whatever it is. Um, so I just kind of want to give you a little bit of a demo of this. Oh, and so I want to mention, so I'm using, for the purpose of this little demo here, I'm using 3 of the new opcodes that were activated in the May hard fork, which is actually kind of funny because, like, I was in this little conversation with Naomi and Jimmy Song the other day, and Jimmy's like, well, the Bitcoin Cash people, they activated these opcodes that like no one was clamoring for or any of this stuff, kind of like implying that they're useless. But there's actually a lot of cool stuff that you can do with it. I already gave a little demo of a tree signature, which is interesting because that was actually created by Blockstream, the concept of tree signatures, and yet it's still not available for use on the Bitcoin chain because there's no opcat on the Bitcoin chain. So, and in the case of this atomic betting, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I don't think it's possible to do securely on the Bitcoin chain today because they don't have these new opcodes. And so I'm using opsplit, opbintonum, and opmod to make this work. All 3 of which they don't have on the Bitcoin chain. So I'll just give you kind of a little bit of a demo here. If this could stop popping up. So from a very high level, basically what we're going to be doing is we're kind of betting on a coin flip. So we have Alice and Bob. They're going to bet on like heads or tails or evens or odds. And we could make this into a lot more complex betting conditions and different types of bets, something similar to like what you might see on Satoshi Dice. But this is kind of the most basic setup, is just a 50-50 bet. So I'm going to start it off here. The new bet. Do I want to bet on odd or even? Let me bet on even. How much do I want to bet? Well, let's try 500 Satoshi. Or, sorry, 500,000 Satoshi. So send 500,000 Satoshi to this address. Okay. So there is a requirement for, in this case, Alice has to send her funds to a kind of special address to set it up. This is part of what makes it atomic. We'll see that in a second. But oh, and another thing. This is if this goes through, this will be like the first. This is like my first attempt on actually doing this on mainnet. So if this actually, my code doesn't bomb, this will actually be the first atomic bet on Bitcoin Cash. So we'll see. So I'm going to do 500,000 Satoshi. I think that's that. Okay. Now I need to grab that the details of that. So Come on. I need to grab the details here. So I need the transaction ID. I also need the index that I sent it to, of the output. So this would be index 0. So proceed to continue. Enter the hash, output index 0. Okay, and this contains my bet details that I would give to the person that I'm betting with. This could be sent over the internet if we actually had, a full-blown app that does this. Okay, I'm going to enter the details here. So the other party is betting 500,000 satoshis on even. If you wish to bet on odd, send 500,000 satoshis to the following address. Now, I should point out that at this point, before Bob here would actually continue and send this funds, it would be prudent to wait for Alice's transaction to confirm. Because if Alice were to double spend this transaction, she could get, she could kind of like steal back her payment. So if she loses, so Bob would want to wait until this transaction is confirmed and it's deep enough in the blockchain that he's sure that Alice is not going to be able to double spend this payment before he continues. But for our purpose, I'm not going to bother waiting for the confirmation. But I'm going to send the payment. I need to send it to this address. Let me just make sure I copied the right one. So 0.005, send. Okay, get the transaction details there. And this was output index 1 here. I have to remember that. C to continue. Outpoint hash index 1. So this contains a partially signed transaction that has Bob's signature on it. So this is the funding transaction where the funds are going into the address that contains the bet logic. And so I'm just going to give this partially signed transaction back to Alice. And so this generates the full signed transaction, funding transaction. So Alice signs this. The input is her special address, and then it has one of Bob's inputs, and it's sending funds to that, the bet address. So I'm just going to broadcast this. You could use Bitcoin D, or sometimes you've got block explorers that let you broadcast the transaction. Let me try that again. Oh. Okay, it would be helpful if I wasn't on the testnet explorer. Okay, broadcast successful. So at this point, Bob would be able to see that transaction hit the blockchain, and he would be able to grab it and parse it. I'm just going to paste it over here in Bob's terminal. Now, this raw transaction actually contains enough data where Bob can now determine if he won the bet or not. So he's going to know as soon as he sees the transaction whether he won or lost the bet. So let's see what happens. Okay, you lost the bet. Time to rethink your life. Okay, so Bob lost the bet. If he had won the bet, he could instantly claim the coins from it. Now, the way it works is there's a time lock involved. If Bob does nothing else here, Alice can get her funds out just by waiting the time lock. And I think I set the time lock to like 6 confirmations or something like that. So Alice could just, she just waits until this transaction has like 6 confirmations on it, and then she can just claim those funds. Otherwise, if Bob won the bet, he could just claim the funds immediately. But in this case, Bob, if he wants to be nice and not require Alice to wait 6 confirmations, he could just share this commitment with her, and then she can just claim her winnings instantly. So we'll do that right now. So did the other party give you his losing commitment? Yes. Enter the commitment. Okay, Alice needs to enter an address to receive the funds. We'll put it back in this wallet. All right, so here's our transaction that we need to broadcast to the blockchain for Alice to claim her winnings. So all right, transaction successful. And let's see if my wallet picks it up. Of course not. But I can probably just follow this through and see it on the Explorer. So this is the address where we sent the bet to. Hold on, I don't think that broadcast. Okay, yeah, so here it is. I don't know why it's not picked up by my wallet, but it probably will after it confirms. It might not. Not sure why it's not relaying, but yeah. So here's the transaction paying out. If we looked at, let me see if I could look at this on another Explorer. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think they broadcast it properly. Let me see. Okay, well, I'll keep an eye on this transaction to make sure it confirms. If it does, then I'll post it on the maybe yours or something, and this will be the first atomic bet on Bitcoin Cash. If not, I might have to remake this video. I don't know what's going on with the relaying of this transaction, but we'll wait and see. So I'll also make a post and I'll show the full output script that I use for this as well. So there we go.